All right, so another episode of Kaminsky Chassis Fabrication, K-Fab. My name is Jay Kaminsky. I'm doing another update here on this chassis. So far, I've got the body mounts in place as well as the front core support mounts in place. So you can see here, I did a little bit of welding there to get them in place. And these are just tacked in place for now. And as you can see right here, this is a jig that I'm building to mount with these square tubings on that flat square stock there, and that will then locate where the bumper mounts go on this stock 66 frame, maybe this 64. I'm using the reference of the two core support mounts to locate the two mounting points for the front bumper brackets. So this is what I'm working on today. And I'm going to show you what I'm working on. Basically, it would mount inside of the core support mounts, and then here are my two reference points for the holes. Now, because of the complex angles here, I have to make this two pieces because you can't get it on and off easily without bending the tabs and stuff like that. So I got to first, I'm going to use a piece of angle iron there and do a couple bolt holes and mount everything together in place, cut the thing in half, retest fit it, make sure everything's all good, and then I'll build my bumper mounts today. I got it all drilled and tapped and already got the bolts run in, and I just ran quarter fines here. Pretty simple, just a short little angle iron piece that's going to connect it. I'll cut it right down the center, and then basically I should have two pieces so that way I can reference off of the core support mounts for the front bumper mounts. And then finally get the rest of the entire frame done, because there's this last little bit on the end of the frame horns here that will support the bumper. So it's like one of the most complex things so far in this build as far as that goes. So this one here went in just fine, but this one, see it's got this space here? It's because I took this pry bar, and because of the complex angles, I had to pop this up out of the way for it to get clearance. So now I got to draw that back in and I'm done. All right, so I'm working on the rear cab mounts here, and as you can see, they're quite high above the top of the frame rail here. So I'm using, with the help of some CAD design, some cardboard aided design, making the template that I'll be using on some cutoff pieces that I use to cut off these main pieces of tubing. Usually I like to put the seam down just so it looks nicer, but seeing how this is under the cab and it's gonna get painted anyway, that'll all get hidden. So I'm going to use this and transfer it onto this piece here. And I already cut one out here, as you can see. And that fits in place nicely. And needs a little bit of fitment here or there. A little bit of grinding on this side here to make it fit a little tighter so there's no gap. But that is your your cardboard aided design there to finish off the rear cab mounts here. The fronts are lower below the actual depth of the chassis here, so it's much easier to work with. This one's a little bit more difficult, so brought out the cardboard and no problem. Finally got the front bumper mounts done. They're integrated into the chassis. They're not bolted on the side, at least on the stock frame. So I decided to do the same thing and basically had to make two pieces of 1/4 inch flat stock with a slot to place the bumper centered on the panels and centered on the frame and the chassis and everything. And then basically did a little side gusset there in here and cut that with the CNC. Actually, no, I just cut that by hand with the plasma cutter. But today I am working on the lower rear control arm mounts that are back there to match this here. So here on the cross member, that's the front mount for the front part of the lower control arm. The rear is going to be back in this area. Doing it out of flat 1/4 stock. I was going to do it out of 2x3 tubing, and then decided to design it up in Fusion 360 out of flat stock. And then I generated all of the tool paths needed for the actual CNC plasma cutter. And so now I'm getting ready to do this here. This is a CNC plasma table that I built in-house here with a water table and everything. And as you can see, I've already used it a bit to make stuff and parts for the tubular drop spindles that we offer. So if you haven't checked out the tubular drop spindles, there'll be links in the description below. But this works really nice. It's just two-dimensional, X and Y, no Z, just, you know, to keep costs down at this point. Eventually I built it so, you know, a Z plate could be put in there to do torch height control and stuff like that. But I built the electronic box and everything. And yeah, got it all working nice. And we're gonna fire this up today and cut a whole lot of stuff. We've got probably the rear end 4-link brackets to go around the rear end tube, and the front mounts for the 4 links to mount to. Like I said, the rear lower control arm mount brackets will all be cut out today. So this is the rear lower control arm mount. The front one is already integrated into the cross member, into those pieces here. And here's the opposite side. And where it will go is right here. And the bushing will sit inside of this pocket, and the other one will sit inside of the actual kick down for the cross member. And that's where the lower control arm mounts will be in the front on the bottom. And then here is the 4-link on the rear end. It's slipped over nice. I didn't even have to clearance it. I'm really happy with how I've dialed in the plasma cutter. And then this is the 4-link mount, and that will be mounted somewhere in here. Actually, this is the other side. But basically it will mount right in here, and then the 4 links will go to the rear end. Obviously the rear end is just sitting on top of the frame here because I've got it clamped and located to get the pinion angle. Shooting for 3 degrees here for the pinion angle, and then I'm going to level the brackets because I've designed it so the front, the center line of the holes are on the front leading edge of the tube here, just to keep things looking nice and neat. So I'm designing the optimal pinion angle roughly into the system, so that way everything looks like it's supposed to be and doesn't look all crooked once it's all assembled. This will get mounted somewhere in this area after I build the links, and continuing on. So everything that I'm doing here, I use an actual spacer that's slightly wider than the bushing itself, just to make sure there's more than enough clearance to drop the bushing in once everything is all welded in place. I have the tube marked here all the way around in a couple spots for the actual location that the 4-link brackets need to be in. So next week I'm going to be working on getting all the suspension components mounted to the frame, and then with the exception of the upper control arms in the front. I haven't done those yet because I'm going to build the spindles for it before I do that. And then I'm going to get the rear end all located how it's supposed to be, get the panhard mount working on getting started, as well as make the links. So I'm going to be TIG welding the links and building those before I finish the mounting components on the actual frame itself, because I want to make sure the rear end's square in the place it's supposed to be at the ride height that I'm designing it for, before I fry everything in place to make sure it's all nice and square and even. That way there's no confusion, and everything looks exactly how it's supposed to be and is the same way that I've designed it on Fusion 360. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified when we upload new videos, and head to KaminskyChassisFab.com for our patch panels as well as tubular drop spindles and more. Thank you for watching, and take care.